Let's do Crazy Town here. Jen Psaki keeps digging herself a deeper hole, Gio says. Let's find out why. Roll it, G. All right, let's go.
You were asked on April 1st about why refugee flights hadn't continued, and the president not raising caps on refugees, and you were asked whether it had anything to do with the situation on the border. You said, quote, no, it's not related to that. Now, of course, the president referenced the border directly in his explanation over the weekend. You mentioned it yesterday. So how do you square those two explanations, previously saying the border was not a factor, and then now saying that it is?
Well, let me walk you back a little bit to the last few months. I will do this briefly, I promise. Josh's eyes are glazing over here as I'm just kidding, as he's worried how long I'm going to talk here. Sean, we took a look at what had happened over the last few years. The impact on OR, the Office of Refugee Resettlement, of having, of course, welcoming in, delivering on a decision the president made to treat children as they come across the border humanely and ensure they are treated in a safe manner, has a way on the system. That is a factor, but some of that decision making is happening in kind of people, at the Office of Refugee Resettlement in ways that maybe I wasn't communicated to about it at that time.
So are you saying that the border has emerged as a factor in the last 20 days? I mean, even before April 1st, we're already seeing an increase the number of migrants arriving at the border and the strains it was presenting to the system. Are you saying the border was not a factor back then at all in the thinking about refugee policy?
Well, let me bring you behind the curtains of how policymaking works. You assess over time. As you look over time, there's not a magic day when you wake up and an alarm bell goes off. You have to assess over time what the needs are and make changes as needed.
May I just take a prerogative with my always unglazed over eyes and just follow up on this issue?
Sure,
it's an important issue, but why not just raise the cap to your promise? The cap is just that. It's a cap. They're saying that this is a broken promise, arguably his first big one of his administration.
Well, first, we're actually going to set a cap, a large cap, soon.
Just a quick clarification. When the president said, quote, it's overwhelming, a few hours ago in the Oval Office, did he mean the evidence against Derek Chauvin was overwhelming?
I think I've answered this question a couple of times.
Hi, so I know you just in some ways answered the question about why, but I'm confused about why you won't clarify what the president said about praying that the verdict is right and it being overwhelming. The president obviously volunteered this information. No one asked him for his opinion about the verdict. Why not say this is what the president meant?
Well, Amish, I think our objective is to the president was obviously clearly impacted by his conversation with the Floyd family just yesterday. They're sequestered, so they obviously can't hear or listen to anything being said, but I'm not going to have more clarification for you.
Simply, is it wrong for Americans to see this as the president saying he hopes the officer's going to be found guilty and the evidence is overwhelming? When people see that quote, is it wrong for them to make that assumption that that's what the president's saying?
I think what people should conclude is that the president, like many Americans, has been deeply impacted by the trial.
And so what made him want to weigh in today on this before the verdict has come down?
Well, I think he was asked a question if I followed it closely.
Not that question.
That was my question, but I asked him what his message was for the Floyd family, not what he thought the verdict should be.
Well, I think, Caitlin, he obviously has been following this trial quite closely, as many Americans have been, and he certainly has his mind and his heart on what is happening around the country.
Yeah, nice try. Well, I can see why you called it that, G. Digging herself a deeper hole. That's exactly what she did the whole time. I mean, her inability to be truthful is staggering.